the Nike Swoosh became a globally recognized icon, there was a young man with an unbeatable work ethic who knew the value of a good pair of running shoes.
On the running track at the University of Oregon, where my old track coach was always experimenting with shoes.
Phil Knight combined his love of sports with his uncanny business sense and created one of the most recognizable brands in the world. Today, Nike regularly reports over $40 billion in yearly revenue. They truly live up to their name as the Greek god of victory. Of course, Nike did not start their journey on top of Mount Olympus. Their story starts in Portland, Oregon. Phil was born in February of 1938. It was a very mild winter that year, coupled with a surprisingly hot summer. The climate Phil grew up in kept him outside most of the year growing up. He was an athletic kid and wasn't afraid of putting in a little hard work to accomplish his goals, even from a young age. When he was in high school, his father, who was a newspaper publisher at the time, refused to give him a job. He felt his son should earn any position he held. So Phil went across town and got a job working for the rival newspaper. He worked the morning shift tabulating sports scores and ran 7 miles home after his workday was done. Phil took his passions with him when he went off to college, joining the track and field team as a middle-distance runner and earning himself a degree in business from the University of Oregon. While he was in school, he met fellow lover of track sports Bill Bowerman, who would later go on to co-found Nike with Phil. Bill was his coach, and Phil ran as a miler under his tutelage. Bill Bowerman was born in 1911 and had grown up in a tiny town in Oregon called Fossil. He was the son of the 13th governor of the state of Oregon and grew up with both a sense of dignity and a love of the outdoors. Bill played football at the University of Oregon, and with a little bit of a nudge from one of his coaches, he discovered his love of track and field. Bill went on to coach football for a time and raised a quiet little family. He expected he would live out his cozy American life this way forever, but when the United States joined World War II, he felt an obligation to join the fight. He'd been in the ROTC program in the Army Reserve during his younger years, and so entered the U.S. Army as a lieutenant. After faithfully serving his country in the war effort, Bill returned to coaching high school football before becoming the head coach of the football team at his alma mater, the University of Oregon. During his time there, he took a trip to New Zealand, where he learned about the many benefits of implementing running into a fitness program. He was informed that running was suitable for people across a wide age range and was impressed with the reported results of the exercise. Upon his return to the United States, he introduced the fitness scene back home to the idea of jogging, writing books and articles about it. He began looking into ways he could become more involved in the sport. In 1964, co-founded Blue Ribbon Sports with Phil Knight. The two of them recognized the Japanese shoe market had begun to combine sports and fashion, and they felt the American apparel market was ready for a similar shakeup. In its infancy, BRS was not able to market their own shoes. They needed to establish themselves in the retail world, while Bill practiced the subtle art of athletic shoe design. The two men knew simply bursting onto the scene with brand new, untested products was a long shot for success. So to start out, while they both held down day jobs, they also began to distribute Japanese sports shoes known as Onitsuka Tigers. Phil was tasked with running the business and marketing side of things, while Bill primarily would work with athletes he was coaching to design shoes that met their needs. Blue Ribbon Sports launched in 1964. They opened their first retail store only 2 years later. They developed quite a reputation for themselves, bringing this new Japanese-style shoe to a new market. They sold 1,300 pairs of shoes in their first year of business, and more than doubled their sales in the second year. The two entrepreneurs were biding their time, waiting for the right combination of timing and creation. Bill experimented with the design of sneaker soles for years, in an attempt to improve the performance of runners. The process famously led to him ruining his wife's waffle iron while attempting to develop the waffle-soled trainer. He tinkered with the right balance of grip and slip for their running shoes. Meanwhile, Phil used the skills he learned in the wider business world to continue to improve their public image. The stars seemed to align for the men in 1971. That was the year the two most dynamic changes happened for the company. Blue Ribbon Sports was in need of a fresh, new name. They needed something sleek that reflected both their target audience as well as something that would appeal to the average person. Their passion for running brought to mind the history of the marathon. The race we know today has its roots in ancient Greece. The legend says that during a war between the Greeks and the Persians, the Greek armies were far outnumbered. However, due to their grit and brilliant battle strategy, the Greeks were able to repel the advancing Persians in the Battle of Marathon. The popular story goes that after the Greeks won the battle, a messenger ran from Marathon to Athens, approximately 26 miles, to tell the political leaders the good news. Upon his arrival and the delivery of the message, he fell down from exhaustion and died. To honor him, the marathon race was created. With the ideas of victory, running, and Greece on their minds, they reached a stroke of brilliance. Nike was the name of the Greek god of victory, and so Blue Ribbon Sports was no more and Nike was on the scene. In retrospect, the men realized Nike was such an obvious fit for their brand. Running and track sports were steeped in the tradition of ancient Greece and the Olympics. A name that conveyed the ideas of sports, victory, and tradition was the way forward. The second major change for Nike came in the production of their now iconic logo. A graphic design student from Portland State University named Carolyn Davidson had been doing some freelance work for them at the time of the name change. Phil asked her to design a stripe, or a logo, for the new line of shoes that Nike was about to launch. He wanted the logo to be different from the three-stripe pattern of Adidas, who were their biggest competitor at the time. Phil explained that he had a factory in Mexico that was ready to make their new shoes. He just needed to finalize the fashion of the design. Bill had found a design for the sole that tested well with runners and was ready to launch their first set of cleats or soccer boots. They just needed that extra bit of pizzazz, and he felt Carolyn was the woman for the job. She set herself to work, coming up with at least 6 designs that she then presented to the Nike board. The one they chose was one that, in her own words, conveyed motion. Originally only intended to be the mark for one shoe design, the board at Nike liked it so much they trademarked it and made it into the official logo for the company proper. Throughout all these changes, Phil and Bill never lost sight of their initial vision. They wanted to make sports apparel that was designed with the actual needs of athletes in mind. They maintained their connections in the world of sports and fitness, with Bill even continuing to coach various sports and teams for years after the company was rebranded. When it came to sports, however, their first love would always be running. In the 1960s and 70s, it was difficult to find any programs or communities dedicated to the sport beyond the collegiate level. They knew the interest was there simply were no outlets for those athletes to engage in. So in 1977, rather than bemoan the lack of support, the two of them decided to take the situation into their own hands and created a space for themselves. The men founded a running team that they called Athletics West. They gathered around them several up-and-coming names in the track and running, and garnered enough attention for the program to compete internationally at one point. The men had reasonable success with Athletics West, even being credited with inspiring the running boom of the 1970s in the United States. However, Phil Knight was more than just a runner. He was a runner with a freshly minted sports apparel business. Athletics West was a wonderful chance for Phil and Bill to spend time with real professional athletes, getting to know their needs in the wider world of sports. They were able to get to know firsthand where sports outfitters were falling short. Given the emphasis the company had on making the world's most elite running shoe, the outside observer might have found it surprising that Nike invested so heavily in basketball in the mid-1980s. Their shoes before that time had been primarily marketed to cater to race runners, soccer players, and American football players. However, Phil Knight was always looking ahead, and he saw a movement coming. He saw a change in the shoe game long before anyone else. He realized he could spearhead that change, if he only had a mascot. He needed a real athlete who could inspire the world of basketball to consider Nike before anyone else, and in 1984, Nike would begin to court the now world-famous Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players to ever step foot on a court, was a rookie in 1984, and he was approached by the 3 major athletic shoe brands at the time for sponsorship deals. Adidas and Converse were hoping he would sign on to endorse products that had already been proven on the market. They wanted him to be the face of existing shoes. Nike, however, went a different route. They showcased what Michael was known for, his soaring slam dunks. Nike tasked Peter Moore and Tinker Hatfield with designing a shoe that would work better with the movements Michael was making on the court. He needed more ankle support for the sudden movements he had to make. He needed a sole that would grip so that he could stop and start on a dime and go from a sprint to a jump in no time at all. And to top it all off, the logo for the shoe brand would be Michael Jordan's silhouette, which would become known as the Jumpman. Initially, after seeing the design, MJ was critical of the colors of the design. Nike's team did not give up. The men returned to the drawing board, taking his criticisms into account. They changed the shoe, while the other companies continued their pitches. When they were ready, Moore and Hatfield returned to Jordan with the updated design. The new design, along with the fact that they had respected his opinions, led Michael Jordan to signing a 5-year endorsement deal with Nike that became possibly the most mutually beneficial relationship between a brand and an athlete in history. Nike had caught the eyes of the basketball world, landed a massive celebrity endorsement, and developed a brand new branch of their company in the same day. In the years since the creation of Air Jordans, the founders of Nike have stepped away and gone into their twilight years. Phil Knight is still considered the king of athletic apparel, even titling his autobiography Shoe Dog after his nickname. Bill Bowerman would retire slowly during the 1980s, settling back into the family life he had before entering the shoe game. The Blue Ribbon Sports Company grossed $8,000 in their first year of sales. Today, Nike commands an impressive empire, having their own product lines across nearly every corner of the sports world. If you play a sport, Nike has something for you. The little Oregon shoe company that could is now worth a staggering $167 billion. Not too shabby for a runner and a football coach. If you like this video about the history of Nike, you should check out the other videos on our channel. We're always posting new and interesting videos about the hidden stories behind all the brands you love. Don't forget to show the like button some love and to share this video with someone who you think might like it. Cheers!